The pride, passion, and pageantry of college football lives here. This is the Paul Finebaum Show, Hour 2 podcast.
This might be college football heaven.
We are back. Great to have everyone here. So much to talk to Blake Toppmeyer about. We love talking to Blake from USA Today. He just covered the Super Bowl. We'll talk about Jalen Hurts in a minute, but many are turning the page, looking towards spring, and this is something he did with John Adams, ranking the SEC quarterbacks. Nussmeier, Arch. So this is Toppmeyer's list. Arch at number one. Hard to go wrong there. Typical Adams, being a curmudgeon, refused to put Arch at the top of his list. Lagway, Linares, Nico. Blake, great to have you back. Thanks for. So let's start. What do you see here in the quarterbacks? I mean, it seems pretty obvious Arch is up there, but what went into your thought process?
Yeah, so me and John actually did a quarterback draft. So he took Garrett Nussmeier out from under my nose. So that's why Nussmeier's on John's side of the aisle there. I would start the conversation with Nussmeier. Like he's the most proven quarterback in the league. I think he has an incredibly high floor. We know what he can do by this point, right? He's got a great arm. Got a lot of moxie. He does throw a few too many picks, but I think LSU can help him in that area by being a little more competent on defense this next season. I think part of the reason why Nussmeier always felt like he had to push the issue is because he was propping up a defense that didn't have his back. And so I think there's still a little more room for growth for him if he can cut down on the picks. But like I said, he's got a great track record for production, great arm.
Hey, Blake, help me with this. I saw the same Garrett Nussmeier you did this year, but he was so frustrating to watch. I am just curious with why so many people, and by the way, a lot of folks are gravitating to him to help Brian Kelly have a must-win big season. What did I miss? And maybe I didn't pay enough attention because he looked really spotty at times.
Well, he was in a couple key games. I will agree with that. There was about a 3-game stretch there where he was not at his best. I'm thinking about the second half of the Texas A&M game, Alabama, Florida. He was pretty average in those games, threw too many picks. And yeah, I mean, I think the interceptions are not a small issue. I do think, though, you know, in terms of like just pure raw passing ability, it's hard to get much better than Nussmeier. And you talk with guys like that kind of around the NFL, and you know, that have their hands on quarterbacks on a day-to-day basis. Like, I mean, they do love the makeup of Garrett Nussmeier. Like he's got a great arm, and I agree with you, Paul. Like I think he's got to cut down on some of the mistakes that for a veteran quarterback he's still making too deep into his career. I mean, he threw 12 picks this year, including 3 against Texas A&M, where he was forcing the issue a little bit. I do think he's got to clean up his decision making. But if we take it a step further, I think this is also part of why I think the list starts with Nussmeier is because of the proven track record. But I also think once you get past him, there are a lot of unproven quarterbacks in the league this year. And so I think it's a twofold conversation. Nussmeier has a track record, but also there's a lot of fresh faces. And to me, it's really a top tier of quarterbacks in the SEC. I think it's a 3-man top tier. I think it's some ordering of Nussmeier, Arch Manning, and DJ Lagway. I think Arch and Lagway are more of the highest ceiling type of guys because, you know, Arch was still just kind of scratching the surface, I think, of what he could become. I think DJ Lagway still has a lot of growth left in him. And so those two guys, you know, if you're looking for the highest ceiling possible quarterback in the SEC, I think it's one of those two guys. If you're taking the guy with the proven track record of production and probably the highest floor, I think it's probably Nussmeier.
Listen, you can only have so many really good quarterbacks. I'm most interested in another quarterback because he's going to a place, and you're going to figure this one out pretty quickly, that is in desperate need of a big year, and he's coming off of a very inconsistent year, but he was once great. Can Hugh Freeze make Jackson Arnold great again?
Yeah, that's the defining question that I think will decide Hugh Freeze's tenure ultimately at Auburn. I mean, he was one step away from the hot seat. He spent some time, in pretty close vicinity to the hot seat, I feel like, this past season. But, I think there was a feeling around Auburn that he was going to get one more go at it. And so here you go. You got a new quarterback. There's, I think, enough talent around Jackson Arnold that Hugh's got to make this work, right? And I think the question for me is, does Hugh still have that touch with quarterbacks that he had a decade ago when he was bringing tempo and RPOs into the SEC, sort of ahead of the game now? Whereas now everybody has caught up and everybody's running some version of RPOs and tempo, at least in a certain capacity in the SEC. And then also, like, who is Jackson Arnold? Is he the 5-star talent that recruiting analysts thought coming out of high school, and was he just hurt by an inadequate offensive line and receiving core this past season? Or was this guy, frankly, a little overrated on the recruiting circuit, and maybe he had a hand in in Oklahoma's offense being kind of a mess this past season? Like, I don't think he should be totally excused from Oklahoma's season being a bust. I mean, he didn't receive a lot of help, I'll give you that, but he also didn't do much to help Oklahoma either. And so this is a reset for Jackson Arnold, but it's also a reset for Hugh Freeze. And yeah, I think that is not only one of the more interesting storylines for Auburn this year, it's one of the more interesting storylines in all of the SEC, because I think Auburn has enough pieces at other positions where they could be a dangerous team that you don't want on your schedule this year. And I think in terms of year-over-year win-loss improvement, Auburn might be the team that could make the most year-over-year improvement, considering they're 5-7 this year. But if the quarterback's a bust, and if Hugh Freeze doesn't have that touch with quarterbacks anymore, it's hard to see this ending much differently than it did last year when they didn't have enough quarterback production then.
Blake, while you were at the Super Bowl, Alabama fans were rejoicing because they were able to hire a guy who was hired a year ago, quit, goes someplace else, gets fired, and then they clamor to get him back. I'm speaking of Ryan Grubb, who many Alabama fans tell me is going to completely change the attitude and the approach and the look at Alabama under Kalen DeBoer. You buying?
I think that you can only go up because it wasn't very good on offense this past season. I think from that perspective, yeah, if you're an Alabama fan, I would be excited by something different. I think the other side of the coin is, Ty Simpson headlines the quarterback competition. He's now on, his fourth coordinator in a 4-year span, and Alabama was quiet on the transfer front in terms of quarterbacks. And I think I'm curious to see, much like with Jackson Arnold, what is Ty Simpson? Is he the 5-star recruit that the recruiting analysts told us about, or is he the guy that hasn't been able to get on the field for 3 years? And maybe there was a reason why he wasn't able to get on the field for 3 years. I just, in this day and age of, microwave success and microwave solutions for quarterbacks, I think Alabama is taking a calculated risk here. I think it's a real gamble to go with a career backup and believe that he is the guy that Alabama, under a different coaching staff, thought he was going to be when they signed him as a blue chip recruit. So, I mean, I think the coordinator change, yes, it's a positive development for Alabama. But to me, I think Alabama's still got a lot of questions about its quarterback. And let's face it, this is not the Nick Saban glory days when you can put, say, a game manager out there on the field and just say, hey, just hand the ball off, complete some play action passes, and we'll go win a national championship because we got a 3 deep of all-stars on the offensive line, running back, and wide receiver, right? I mean, there's still talent in Alabama. I'm not saying there's not, but it's not the level of talent that there was in Saban's heyday, and so you need a quarterback who can have a high impact on your offense. Jalen Milroe last year became too turnover prone, but let's face it, the offense still revolved around Milroe. Like, he was the offense, and when he was turning the ball over, it didn't look pretty. Other times it looked okay, but he was the offense. And so now with him gone, I think they need a lot out of whoever wins that quarterback job, whether it be Ty Simpson or someone else. And I don't think a new coordinator necessarily solves everything at that position.
Blake, finally, I've asked you about this individual 100 times, and there may be 100 more questions before we get to the end of next season. He's got the quarterback, we know that, but he also has a schedule that, to me, looks more treacherous than the one we all talked about a year ago. Who is Billy Napier is the final Jeopardy question. Answer, what is the question? Solve this riddle for us. What's going to happen down there?
Yeah, it's a schedule that I think continues to be set up to get your coach fired, right? I mean, I thought last year's schedule was a schedule set up to put your coach on the hot seat in a hurry, and that's what it did right out of the gates. And this once again looks like a schedule set up to get your coach fired. I mean, they start off going to Miami. They have, I mean, beyond Florida's control, one of the toughest schedule draws in the SEC, and this is where I think there's a huge difference, particularly in this conference, between like power rankings versus evaluating whether a team is a good bet to make the playoff or not. Because if I'm just doing power rankings, if I'm just looking at the roster and saying what has every team got in the SEC, like I like Florida. I think Florida is like a top 20 type of team when you just look at what they have on their roster. But then I look at that schedule and I think, how are you going to make the playoff with a schedule that starts at Miami, and then you're going to have at Texas A&M along the way. You'll have Tennessee at the Swamp. That's a house of horrors for Tennessee, but still team coming off a playoff bid. You have Georgia on the schedule. You have Texas on the schedule. Road trips to LSU and Ole Miss on the schedule. So yeah, power rankings wise, top 25 wise, I'd have Florida in a nice, respectable position going into the season. But so much of making the playoff is based on what type of schedule do you have. And to me, Florida doesn't have a schedule that sets them up in good position to make the playoff. And I think if you bring Billy Napier back like Florida did for another go at this, and you convince your booster class and your fan base, like, we're going all in on Billy, get your NIL dollars out. This is the guy. You know, we're not going to spend on the buyout. We're going to invest in Billy. And then he comes out and goes 8-4 against a tough schedule. I don't really know how you sell that at that point. And so, yeah, he is backed into a corner a little bit with this schedule. And I think Brent Venables, frankly, falls into that category as well. I mean, we're all sitting here thinking like, oh, Oklahoma could be a really improved team this year. Really? Has anyone looked at the schedule? Because I'm struggling to see where all the wins are going to come from.
Fantastic conversation, Blake Toppmeyer. We really appreciate his analysis. We'll take a short break here, and your phone call is straight around the corner. We have a long way to go here on a Tuesday afternoon.
You're listening to the Paul Finebaum Show podcast.
We are back, and let's grab some more calls. Billy D. up next. Hello, Billy.
Hey, Paul. Good afternoon. I was hearing your callers, and I can honestly say I don't think it's so much of a wand that you like wave and control things, as it is that you just have a ability to have your finger on the pulse of what people are thinking, and this show's just a very big part of it. Having people call from all over the country, giving you their opinions and what they thought and felt, and that makes you unique in all of this.
Well, thank you. I mean, we there are a lot of people involved in this show, and what we try to do, we try not to. Sometimes we have to. Remember, we do have bosses, but we try not to force feed the audience. Why are you laughing,
and
Miranda?
One last thing about Jalen Hurts. I'm hearing all these people, the LSU fans and Georgia fans wearing that green dress that just green is not a good color on them. With Jalen Hurts, when he had to ride the pine when Tua came online, he stayed, and he was given the opportunity to have some of the best coaches around him, because let's all remember, Jalen struggled with getting rid of that football. I mean, if you're holding on to it longer than 2.5 seconds, you're going to your check down or you're running. You have to figure that out. And that was a big part of what Jalen struggled with. And, from my understanding, he's surrounding himself with a bunch of women, and I don't even know what that, who are coaching him to, get him to that next level. And obviously it's worked.
Well, that is great. Hey, thank you very, very much for the call. Appreciate it. Billy, take care of yourself. Let's continue with Roy in Tennessee. Hello, Roy.
How you doing, Paul?
We're doing great.
Been enjoying your show. Good to hear you talking, some sports and some football.
Thank you.
Do you think Ryan Grubb is going to make a difference? I mean, you think it'll help, stir them up a little bit and maybe get some confidence going back in the team from what we've seen last season?
I mean, I think it could. I don't think it's automatic. And the reason it's not automatic is that they have to identify the right quarterback. It's worth reporting that Nick Sheridan, who was the offensive coordinator, is the same person who I believe recruited Keelan Russell. So how is that going to work out? He's going to remain on the staff. But Grubb had great success with Kalen DeBoer in the past. Is that necessarily a precursor or a predictor of the future? Maybe, maybe not. It better be.
Yeah, I hope so. Two quick comments, Paul. I think the judge got kind of an unfair shake there from you and some of your callers about what color robe he might wear. I think you got to understand he was probably just wishing that some of these young players, I didn't hear anything racist or anything at all about what he was saying. I mean, that's just my opinion.
Well, no, I mean, there was nothing, he didn't say anything racist. That's an absolute fact. What I don't like is older people, and I'm not acting like I'm young here, who start telling young people what they have to do. Young people have the opportunity to get all the information and make their own decisions. Yeah, it would be great if all of us at a young age had been told exactly how to manage money. Okay, but we were told. You were told. I was told. All of us were told, and then we all make mistakes.
Oh, I agree. I think he just is wanting good things for these young people.
I just think he's a guy that's
nobody's going to tell him. Nobody's allowed or shouldn't be allowed to tell them what to do with their money. But I was just thinking it was sounding kind of funny.
Well, Roy, I think if I could tell on myself here, I am prejudiced against judges.
I don't blame you there. I've known a lot of East Tennessee judges
and,
on both sides of the
and I say that jokingly. I just think. By the way, I could name you 4 or 5 professions that people are not easy to talk to.
Absolutely, lawyers being one of them.
Lawyers. By the way, I live with a doctor. They are the worst because doctors are never wrong about anything.
They don't want to listen to you if you stay in their office longer than 10 minutes.
No, they got that clock running. I mean, I have a new thing when I go for my physical. I drive this doctor crazy. I know he's not around watching today. He'll go, Mr. Finebaum, any questions? I'll go, no. Like, I got a job to get to. I don't have time to ask you stupid questions. It drives them crazy because they're so used to. I got one more question, and let me look at my notepad. I just want to get in and get out. But most people don't do that. Most people they take their wife or husband, and then the spouse goes, I got 2 more questions.
Yeah, I hear you. Hey, Paul, I know it's the off season and everything, but really, I really enjoy the sports talk and the information that you guys give out on all of the SEC teams and all the teams, period. But, I sure enjoy that a lot more than I do all you callers just having feuds with each other about what somebody said.
I agree with you on that. So well said. Any other professions you don't like? You told me earlier you don't like middle-level managers at television stations. Producers, coordinating producers, executive producers. Stacy is up next.
Let me tell you what profession I don't like, Paul Finebaum. Fake athletes. You know what fake athletes is?
What's that?
Those that ain't never played a down of football or baseball or basketball, but they got all the opinions in the world of what a person need to do and what they don't need to do.
Right.
But anyway, Paul, I hear that you finna move to Birmingham. You finna move to Alabama?
I have read that.
Man, you should have came to the Pratt City area. Have you ever heard of Pratt City in Ensley?
I have been to Pratt City before. Pratt City is just north of town. Is that right?
Man, we'll love to have you in Pratt City.
Yeah, I've been there.
Yeah, we'll love to. Yeah. So
hey, Stacey, wasn't do I remember correctly? Wasn't Pratt City hit by that tornado?
It was some years ago. Yes,
I remember. I remember going out. I spent all day out there. It was the craziest thing I've ever seen. It was this was the tornado that hit Tuscaloosa, and a bunch of us went out there, and there were literally on one side of the street, houses were standing, and the other side of the street was completely leveled.
Exactly. You remember well. Let me say a couple of things, Paul, and I'm going to get off this thing, man. Number one, I need to talk to Stephen A. Smith.
Okay, I can. You want me to call him right now?
Smith.
Hold on.
No, you just call him on your call him on your off time.
I'll get him on the phone right now. Hold on.
Listen. Okay, go get him on the phone.
By accident. Okay.
I got some videos I
Stephen A. right here,
Paul.
You want me to dial the number? You want to talk to him?
Yeah. Yeah, tell him to call me. Tell him to call me. You got my information. Tell him to call.
Okay, I'll have him call.
Look, check this out, Paul. All these fake Jalen Hurts fans. All these fake fans, now they want to be Jalen Hurts fans. And Billy D.
Did you hear the guy yesterday on Stephen A. show, Dan Orlowski? I want to apologize to
yes, sir.
I don't want to hear apologies the day after the Super Bowl.
I don't want to hear it either. No, and like I said, when you address my boy, address him as MVP quarterback for the Philadelphia Eagles Super Bowl champion.
Right.
All right. Last thing I got to say, Paul.
Okay.
Because I'm gonna go back to this date because see, you seem to have a little amnesia sometime, Paul.
How about all the time?
You got that Texas young lady on there, but she's a great young lady. She played hard. Texas played hard. My game cost just came up a little bit short.
Your game?
A little bit short.
Hold on a second, Stacey. Your game cost? You live in Alabama. You're a Tide fan, and suddenly you're claiming amnesia, the Gamecocks.
Paul,
we are showing your picture
Paul.
Right now on television.
Paul,
I don't see any Gamecock paraphernalia.
Paul, will you listen to me, Paul? Stop trying to control my call and listen to me, Paul. Listen, I have always said that them lady Gamecocks were my girls. If you go back to my Facebook page, you will see me talking about the lady Gamecocks, Paul.
They say I am sorry that I've never been to your Facebook page.
Well, you need to go check it out before you start talking now, Paul. No, hey, I ain't trying to get into it with you today, man. I'm just simply calling, Paul, and telling, hey, you need to get my girl on the show on a regular basis. Let her tell you that she don't want to come on a regular basis. But you need to get her on a regular basis, okay? And that's done Staley. Now, the last thing I want to talk about is Ryan Grubb.
Okay.
It's not going to make a difference if Grubbs come. The difference is the head coach. And you can mark that down, write it down, draw it down, do whatever you want to do. The difference is not going to happen until the boy makes a change. Now, you can take that to the bank. Roll Tide and Gamecocks pride.
Oh, my goodness. He's a fake Gamecock fan. We'll take a short break. We're back after this.
You're listening to the Paul Finebaum Show podcast.
Welcome all of you back. Let's continue with more calls. Rick in Harrisburg, PA. Hello, Rick.
Hi, Paul. How are you?
Quite well, thank you.
How you doing? I'm hanging in there. You know, I had cancer and they had to take it out of me, but I'm clear on. Thank God for keeping me alive.
I'm glad to hear that.
My question: the SEC's number one in football, and I'm amazed that they're now number one in basketball. When, like I said, Auburn, Tennessee, Alabama were known for football. Now they're known for basketball. And I think the ACC went from number one to basketball to now number 3. And I think that even the Big 12, the SEC is number 1 in football. Number 2 is the Big 10. Number 3 is the Big 12. And number 4 is the ACC. And I'm so glad that Alabama, Auburn, and Tennessee, they're now a basketball conference as well as a football conference. And I think they're putting the Big 10 number 2 to shame. What do you think?
Yeah, I think the football thing is a little bit complicated because of what the Big Ten has done nationally, the national championship. But basketball is probably the biggest surprise. It's not only so interesting how good the SEC is in basketball, but how bad the ACC is.
Oh, yes. Yes, you're right.
And the Big Ten, I mean, listen, the Big Ten is a great conference in pretty much everything. It just depends on the year to how good. Thank you for the call. I do appreciate it. And let's check out Keith up next. Hello, Keith.
Hey, Mr. Paul, you got me?
I sure do.
Man, it's an honor to even talk to you. First time I've ever called.
Well, thank you.
All right, I got a quick question for you. How can you say Tua is better than Hurts?
Well, I didn't say he was today. I said when he was replaced, Tua was projecting to be a better quarterback, and really Tua was a better quarterback in college. I talked to a number of people that said they've never seen anyone quite like Tua. I don't know what happened to him, though. He has not been great in the NFL, or at least consistent, where Jalen Hurts has completely taken over.
I was at the I'm an Auburn fan. I respect Jalen for what he done. He could have went to any school he wanted to when he got benched, in my opinion.
Well, he certainly could have, but I think he chose well.
Oh yeah, definitely. Nick Saban, and I give credit to the man. He's a great coach. But
people have to remember, though, and I know you do. I mean, he was just not progressing at Alabama. He had Lane Kiffin the year before, I believe, and then he was struggling, and Tua just was so good they had to put him in, and they finally did, and they competed in the offseason, and then Tua won the job, as everyone knows.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I mean, it was a transitional time at Alabama, and. But in the final year, I mean, he was not coming back again after not being the starter. So he looked around. He graduated, and he decided I'm going to play for Lincoln Riley, which turned out to be a great decision.
Do you think Lincoln Riley helped him in his progression a little bit better?
There's no question Lincoln Riley helped him.
Okay.
I mean, Lincoln Riley was a great quarterback coach. I think he's been a very average head coach in recent years because he just, he had Kyler Murray. Was Baker there when he was a coordinator? Yeah, Baker. Nobody really, Caleb Williams. Lincoln Riley for that stretch was where you had to go to be a great player. Hey, thank you very, very much for the call. Do appreciate it. Let's continue. And Brad is up next in Macon. Brad, what's up?
Mr. Paul, thanks for taking my call, and welcome back to Alabama.
Well, thank you.
Hey, man, I told you a few days ago that Judge John, he's a jackass, and he's proving me right, Paul.
I'm afraid you're right.
He's going to stick that foot in his mouth.
What's now, that? I just got a call. Randy, did you take that call from East Tennessee Emergency EMT? They sent out an ambulance, two paramedics to John's house. And they have been working now for 30 minutes to try to get his foot out of it, mouth.
Absolutely. It's stuck. You know something? I could spot a jackass a mile away. I knew about the third call he made. I said, this guy's going to be a jackass.
Hey, let me ask you a question. When is, I've been kind of out of sorts lately, when's the Ari Wasserman debate?
Oh, Ari Wasserman. Paul, I hadn't heard much about it. They were down in NOLA last week for the Super Bowl. I think Infinity took care of the trip for them and sent them down there. And they got to talk to a bunch of people. But, I guess it's coming up. I guess whenever y'all get together and decide, I guess we'll do something.
Brad, is it possible that he is ducking you?
Anything's possible with the little tenors. I've been getting some good information from some of the Finebaum callers, and Johnny B had a good call the other day about the SEC players being in the Super Bowl, conversely against the little tenors. And we got a lot of good facts to shell out with Ari was the man. So, but hey, Mr. Paul, with this,
I think Ari Wasserman sabotaged his phone. Why don't we break? More to come right after this.
You're listening to the Paul Finebaum Show podcast.
Welcome back, and Logan is up next in Alabama. Hello, Logan.
Hey, Paul. Welcome back to Alabama, friend.
Thank you very much.
It's been too long, man.
It has been.
Yeah, you got to promise me. Yeah, you got to promise me one thing though. If Tommy Tuberville runs for governor, you've got to run against him.
Well, Tommy, I think, is planning on running for the Senate, but it's funny. You're the second person that mentioned governor. Apparently, that's up in 2 years. Is that right?
That's right.
Okay. You think you can? You think you can get me some grassroots support if I run? Randy, would you?
Absolutely, man.
Would you come
Absolutely.
to, if I was elected governor of Alabama, would you be part of my cabinet? You want to be the lieutenant governor? I don't know. I think you're better off in the cabinet, not to. I've got somebody else in mind for lieutenant. Lieutenant governor is an elected position anyway.
You could probably get him in there, Paul.
No, last time I saw Tuberville, he was serious about running for Senate again.
Oh, okay. I just figured he was going to run for governor. But
yeah, I mean, I think governor's more up my alley because senator, you go off to Washington, you have to deal with all that bureaucracy. Logan, in Alabama, I feel like if I'm the governor, I can reach out and touch people. Go to every community. And what I would do is I would go to every county in the state and not talk politics, just talk sports. Since I wouldn't be able to do this, I would just take. Okay, I'm going to show up in where do you live in Dothan? Where are you, Logan?
Yeah, I'm in Headland near Dothan, the Wiregrass.
So I come down to the Wiregrass, have a rally, and say, okay, no speech, questions. What do you got? Hey, who do you think's going to be the quarterback there? I mean, that's all we would do. Every county we talk sports. We'll bring Randy along, and you get the microphone, and go identify just like the show. And I'd have to be politically correct, Logan, a little bit. I don't want to turn off anybody, but I'll give you honest answers. I think that is the way to get elected governor of Alabama. Shoot straight about it.
I think it is, Paul. I'm serious.
Well, Paul, Coach Freeze has had 3 losing seasons in a row. Well, what do you think we ought to do? Fire him. Throw him out. A governor that shoots straight.
Exactly, man.
Yeah. By the way, don't tell anybody, Logan. Don't tell anybody I'm running because it would make it more difficult to do the show every day.
I won't, Paul.
I think it's a good idea.
Quick,
do you think it's a good idea?
Weekend?
I think it's a good idea. I mean, I could. You have to. I once told Barkley. He was talking about running for governor, and I found we were together somewhere, and I said, Charles, do you realize what you have to do to run for governor? He goes, no. I said, you actually have to live in the state. He goes, oh man. I don't want to do that. I said, well, you have to establish residency, although there is currently an official representing the state of Alabama, Logan, and I'm pretty sure he does not live in the state of Alabama. Doesn't have, but that's beside the point.
That's crazy, man. That's what I thought about Tuberville, too. I thought he had moved from Florida somewhere to run.
Well, he did, but what Tuberville did was get an apartment in Auburn.
Oh, there you go. Well, he knows the rules, man. He's a quick guy, I guess.
Okay, well Logan, who
you got this weekend?
I think this could be politically incorrect, but I think I like Alabama.
All right, good choice. You've already won. You've already got.
I just won
the Wiregrass. Man.
I just won the Wiregrass. Election returns are already starting to come in for. I think a people's run for public college. Do you like that? I like this. I'm seeing it all come together. Not going to declare a party for a long time because I don't want to. I want to be I want to be the governor of all people. And,
exactly, man. You're the man. You can attract all voters, Republican and Democrat, would vote for Paul Finebaum.
I think we finally found that now. Between you and me, Logan, do you have to live in the governor's mansion?
I don't know. I've been there before. I don't know. You could probably get away with pretending to live there.
I can show up. I'll be there. Hand on the Bible.
You can show up and shake hands. I remember when I was a kid, I went there and I met George Wallace.
Oh yeah.
He was in a wheelchair.
He was.
You know. Well, of course he was in a wheelchair, but he was the governor. So.
Well, listen. I want you to start. I want you to start the grassroots campaign, Logan. You bookmark this. First time. This is the first public mention of this.
Gotcha. Got it right here.
I am not going to take a salary either. I'm going to give my money to Randy.
Really?
Because I'll probably be getting a buyout from ESPN if they get rid of me after this segment here. Anyway, Logan, Logan of all people, he used to live in North Carolina, moved back to Alabama, and now you're the Wiregrass. What's the name of that county down there, Logan?
Houston County.
Okay, you're the Houston County chairman of the Finebaum for Governor campaign.
I got you. I got you covered, buddy. I got you.
You think Jim will? You think Jim will handle my Tuscaloosa balloting?
Yeah. Who else? Who else?
We'll be right
Jim
back.
Thank you for listening to the Best of the Paul Finebaum Show podcast. Watch the Paul Finebaum Show weekdays from 3 to 7 Eastern on the SEC Network. Plus, you can listen and watch on the ESPN app.